There was empires in Africa called Kush, Timbuktu, where every race came to get books. My success to you, even if you wish me the opposite. Sooner or later, we'll all see who the prophet is.
Welcome to GKTV. We are the UK's #1 conscious platform. I am Dua Mutev and Unk. You should all be familiar with us right now. And we are at the F.A.B Expo. You might ask, what is F.A.B about this expo that we have? This is the Film, Arts and Books Expo, taking place down here at the Platinus College, Stockwell, South London. This here Saturday, very, very sunny, beautiful Saturday afternoon. And with me here we have an icon in the sports writing journalism industry, and well known to many of us who are weekly investors, buyers into the Voice newspaper. I'd like to welcome along the sports editor, Rodney Hinds. How you doing, Rodney?
Greetings, greetings.
He's just, we just grabbed him after his excellent speak about his book that he has authored. He was just doing the authors forum entitled Black Lions, which gives a detailed account of the black players that have represented the England football team, and in it Rodney pays homage to some of the great black internationals that have represented the English football team in the last few years. We're going to have a brief discussion with Rodney about his book and about all things sports and football related. So hopefully you will enjoy having Rodney with us. I'd like to welcome him along as always. Thank you for joining us here at GKTV. Yeah, you've just spoken about your book personally. For those who don't have an insight into, I wasn't aware that you've written. I know you write a lot of articles for The Voice, but I wasn't aware you written a book. Just a little brief insight into Black Lions and the what you found out about the history of black players.
Yeah, I mean, quite simply, I was approached many years ago by a publisher that thought that it would be a great read. I mean, I was quite literally minding my own business. Black Lions essentially gives you, to use, if you like, technology terms, the back end of football that we see right now. So we talk about the Raheem Sterlings, the Theo Walcotts, etc., etc. But there had to be a history before that. There had to be black players. So in that book, it chronicles the people like Arthur Whartons, the Andrew Watsons, who was up in Scotland in the 1800s, who were playing for club sides. And I think that it's important to note that while we might have 4 or 5 black players in various sides now, the Arsenals, the Chelseas, the Tottenhams, that wasn't always the case. And as I said, the Arthur Whartons, the Andrew Watsons, they were doing their thing on their own. So you can only imagine their mental and physical strength. Because we talk about racism in the game today. Yeah. What was it like in the 1800s? It must have been, and I quote, horrific. So yeah, that's what Black Lion does. Who did I speak to in that book? I spoke to some of our, if you like, 70s, 80s pioneers, the Garth Crooks, the John Fashion, who's part of the crazy gang at Wimbledon, and I got their stories as well. And once again, while it might not have been as horrific as those guys in the early days, there was lots of challenges. You know, bananas being thrown onto the field of play. I spoke to Cyril Regis as well, who, when he got his call up for England, got a bullet in the post from the National Front. Really? Absolutely, yeah. Wow. So I think that while we look at football now and we all love it and we enjoy it, and it's a game of the people, our black footballers have showed a solid backbone. Yeah. They've shown a tenacity and determination second to none, and that's why they deserve as many plaudits as they do.
Did you cover Watertown in there at all?
Watertown as well, yeah, forgive me for that omission. It shows you know your history as well,
yeah,
Watertown.
A big campaign to get him recognised for his exploits in the First World War as well,
and he will get recognised as well. I think up at St George's Park, which is the home of the Football Association, I think there's going to be a monument put up to him there. So yeah, the Tolls, the Whartons, the Watsons up in Scotland, they've done some fantastic work. And as I said when I gave my little talk, I thought I knew about football. I love football, you know. I eat, drink and sleep it, but doing the research on that book just took me to another level in terms of my education. And I was humbled. I think that's the term I want to use, because as I said, we see it now, the big matches, United versus Tottenham, Chelsea, Arsenal, whatever you want to say. But the back end, as I said earlier, that has intrigued me, just doing that research.
You mentioned Cyril Regis, yeah, who used to watch very closely. When I was a youngster, my cousin was Laurie Cunningham, as I was telling you before.
Icon,
he was
legend.
a tremendous footballer.
Legend.
And one of the things Laurie used to explain, it's not just the racism which people seem to stem from, that came from the supporters. He explained it from the players' aspect, and players that they encountered who were racist, and some of the kick-ins that they got in game, because it's not like it is now. You can't touch nobody now. You fall over and
it's a red card.
or you fall over and they're calling on St John's ambulance.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Back then, you know what I mean. You just, it's a bit of sponge, a bit of water, and get on with it. You know what I'm saying to you?
I mean, that's a great point you make, because I remember interviewing John Fashanu, who could obviously look after himself and play for Wimbledon.
Yeah, he was a martial arts expert.
Absolutely,
as well,
and John would tell me that the further north of England you went, the more challenging it was. And as you quite rightly said, it wasn't just about the crowd. You could deal with the crowd because they were maybe from some distance. But as you quite rightly said, you know, when you were playing against players who had racist bones in their bodies, that's what I can say, they would say things to you, they would do things to you, they'd try and kick you off the field of play. And I think it's an important point to make that, you know, what these guys had to do, these pioneers, Laurie included, is that you have to show some stickability, you have to show some guts and determination, and then the skill factor comes through, and then there's no argument after that. You know, Laurie Cunningham, I mean, you know, I remember growing up watching him myself, part of the 3 Degrees with Brendan Batson and Cyril, you know, those were the guys that, while I might have not realised it then, they were making football my love. They were making it something that I was going to get myself involved with, because they were being successful against the odds.
Yes.
And not only were they being successful, I remember Laurie, who was obviously at Orient before, making the move to West Brom. And I remember people like Laurie, Brendan less so because he was a defender, but people like Laurie showing their skill on the field of play. And I remember this cracking volley that Cyril Regis scored, I can't remember who it was, and I thought, wow. I thought, wow, 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 that just says everything. And that's what the guys had to do. They had to prove themselves, not just on the field of play, but their guts and courage as well. And I think they've done that tremendously.
Yeah, and as you say, that was the back end, because an awful lot of us grew up wishing to be the Cyril Regis or the Laurie Cunningham or the Brendan Batson, but for whatever reasons didn't actually manage to get there. And now we see explosion of black football.
And that explosion will continue as well.
Yeah, not just in the UK, but all right across Europe at this present time. Yeah. So, as you say, they have paved the way in making sure that today the future is rosy and healthy.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, so we're talking about Black Lions, and apparently Graham Taylor got some stick for picking too many black players. Did you actually manage to write on that, or did you actually hear anything behind the scenes?
I didn't hear too much behind the scenes that I can put on record, but what I would say to you is this, that when I heard that story, and the story was that the Football Association, who are the gatekeepers of football in this country, one of the most powerful associations in the world, what I do know is that when I heard that particular story, I smiled inwardly, because it's sadly a story that you could probably believe.
You will relate to.
You can relate to.
When it came out,
absolutely. You didn't say no, that would never happen.
The journalist instinct kicks in.
Absolutely.
Says, there's a possibility.
Yeah, there's a possibility there. Yeah. It's something that I probably will investigate. I mean, listen. I mean, I think that what sport does, it brings people together. Yes. First and foremost, black, white, green, whatever. If you support your team and he supports your team or she supports your team, you feel as one. But what I would say is this, you know. I think that in terms of the England football team, and I'll go on record with saying this, I think if black players are given their heads and their opportunities for the England senior side, I believe the senior side will be more successful than it's been since 1966.
I endorse that, what you just said there.
I think the Raheem Sterlings need to be given a run. I think the Walcotts, the list goes on. I think that in order for them to be truly successful, they need to give black players the same opportunities as white players. Yes. And I say that because many, many years ago, I had the privilege of interviewing Richard Williams, the father of Venus and Serena Williams.
Okay, must have been a great experience.
It was a great experience. He wanted to go to Brixton. So he was at Wimbledon at the time with the 2 girls, and we struck up a great relationship, and he said, "Oh, take me to Brixton." And it was a real black man to black man thing. That's why I'd never met him before, but we connected. And as I drove through Brixton, this is what he said to me. He looked at the projects, the estates, through Brixton, and he said, if England wants to be successful at tennis, and I know Andy Murray's come through, but if they want to be truly successful, he believes that the success will come from a black male in terms of men's tennis in this country. It was a fascinating discussion I had with him. And bearing in mind that he's raised two of the greatest tennis players of all time.
That's an opinion worth listening to.
Absolutely. And what the Lawn Tennis Association needs to do is get involved with a man like that. But I then relate it to football. I say that it's not the only thing that we're good at. We are good at several things, but we are good at sport. But what we want, like the broader community, is equal opportunities.
Yes.
We don't want to play on the periphery. And I honestly believe if there's going to be a World Cup winning England side, it would have to contain a high percentage of black footballers.
Yes, I think we're in agreement there in terms of the way forward. And it's not necessarily just saying that, oh, we must have black players.
No.
We're looking at things on talent and on merit, but
it's a little bit like the black manager debate. Don't give him a job because he's black. Give him a job because he's black and he's good.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's my view on it.
Looking at, as you say, the black managers debate and what's taking place, how do you see that rolling forward? Because let's be honest here, we're not really, or we don't seem to be really, when I say we, I mean black men, making inroads within the management area of football. I mean, yes, we have now Chris.
Yeah, there's about 6 of them now.
Yeah.
Out of 92. It's interesting your argument
QPR,
there.
Chris Ramsey,
Chris Ramsey at QPR.
Who's probably the highest profile black manager at this present time. We still can't see any really in the Premiership.
Absolutely. And that's why we all hoped that QPR would survive last season, didn't we? You know, we all became QPR. We adopted QPR.
Because we wanted to survive. You have top managers like Jose Mourinho saying there's no racism.
Ludicrous.
In football, which I thought was ludicrous. I mean, I hold Jose in high respect for his talent as a manager, but I thought he was totally out of touch with the reality of what's happening around.
And what it needs is a man like him, an Arsene Wenger, etc. They need to be batting for us, for people to wake up.
Well, just be honest, really and truly, because what you said there wasn't. If you look at what's happening around him, as he says, well, I think it's the Rooney rule that they say there's no need for it. There's every need for it from where we can see.
It was the most ludicrous thing that Jose said last season, and he's prone to do things like that. Time as a manager, second to none. You've got to respect him. But when I heard that, if anything, it might put black managers back a bit, because once again, I think that if we look at it positive, and if he had taken up the mantle and said black managers of talent and potential need to get the same opportunities as their white counterparts, I believe with his influence, his standing in the game, it could have only have helped. It's a little bit like when Arsene Wenger speaks. It's a positive.
Yeah, it has weight.
It has weight, you know.
I hear you.
So that was ludicrous. I think that a little bit like the black footballers that we talked about in my book and coming through, and people like Laurie, I think the black manager thing is a harder nut to crack. And I think it's a harder nut to crack because if you're the manager of a football club, you are the man. You are making those decisions. Yeah, there might be a chief executive but above you, but you're the figurehead. And I still don't think in 2015, as we approach 2016, that the majority of clubs in the Football League and the Premier League are ready for that just yet. But what it does need the half a dozen or so managers that are in post at the moment to be successful.
Yes.
We need Chris Ramsey at QPR. We need Jimmy Floyd Hasselback at Burton. We need Chris Hughton at Brighton, etc., etc. We need them to be successful. It's my professional life, so I know what they're about.
Yeah.
But I know, as I said to you earlier on, I adopted QPR last year. When they lost games, I didn't cry, that would be an exaggeration, but I was disappointed for them. Because what we need is Chris, QPR, to be successful. Because then what that does, because the Premier League is so high profile, it gives a chief executive or a board of directors think, black man can do it at the highest level. So them being relegated, once again, takes us back a bit.
I feel your angst or your anxiousness because if we look at, let's say, John Barnes' story, where he was given an opportunity at Celtic, and he himself has said it's been impossible, almost really difficult to get an opportunity after that because he wasn't so successful.
10 years was the opportunity.
At Celtic.
At Tranmere.
Yeah, and we see not so successful Caucasian managers being offered jobs left, right and centre, getting relegated. Getting relegated and still being kept by the club, or getting relegated and getting a job back in the Premiership.
I was told by Ricky Hill, one of the greatest coaches that we have. He's now having to work in America. But anyone that knows the game knows that he's a great coach. He once said to me that there's a merry-go-round for managers. And what happens is, when a black manager falls off a merry-go-round, he's unlikely to get back on it. Whereas the Steve Bruce, the Alan Pardew's, the Steve Coppells, the list goes on, they can fall off the merry-go-round, dust themselves down, do a bit of media work maybe to keep them in tune, and they bounce back again. Yeah. It's unfair, but as I said at my talk, I think that culturally and as a community, African Caribbean, what we need to do is do what our forefathers and our Windrush generation did. Just got to continue to show that determination. We can't give up. We won't give up. I know a lot of the guys who play, I know a lot of the guys that have had lots of disappointments like Luther Blissett and people like that. They're going to be around. There's no doubt about it.
In talking about Caribbean football, yeah, and also African football, we've seen in recent times a mediocre of success for Trinidad and also for Jamaica, yeah, at World Cup level, which is the highest level, and we've seen African teams like Ghana and Ivory Coast excite us as well at the highest level, World Cup. What do you see as the future for Caribbean stroke African football? Because we see a lot of the really talented, like Raheem, who's from Jamaica, born in Jamaica, being taken by the England team. So we see that there is a talent drain, or as some would say, a brain drain. Yeah, but in this term, I would say it's a talent drain. What is the way forward do you see with Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica being really successful in the future at World Cup?
I mean, I've got a real personal view on this one. I think that the administrators of those respective countries need to sort themselves out. They need to get themselves sorted so that a Raheem Sterling is playing for Jamaica as opposed to playing for England, yeah? And that means that we need to, from bottom level, administration-wise, we need to be more professional. I think that's the term. Because clearly, we saw Ghana take Germany to the brink in the last World Cup, didn't we? Why they didn't win that game, I'm still scratching my head.
And Germany went on to win the World Cup.
Absolutely, there you go. And I'm saying to you that what needs to happen, we need to get more professional on our administration level so that the players feel that they can be part of something good. Whereas right now, and I say this respectfully, Raheem Sterling will look at the Jamaican Football Federation and probably have a little smile on his face. And it's not like that. You know, for all the criticisms of the Football Association in this country, they look after their players. Yeah. The bonuses are paid. I mean, you'll never hear England withdrawing from a tournament or not wanting to play a game or coming out the dressing room because the bonuses haven't been paid. But we get that with African nations and some of the Caribbean nations. Yeah. We just need to be more professional because the personnel and the talent is obviously there on the field of play. And the way that the rules are now, you might be born in a country, but might be able to live in a country for a while, and then you can then play for that country. Yeah. Yeah.
Eligible after 5 years.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's going to continue happening unless we sort ourselves out in those African and Caribbean nations.
Will we see another Black Lions book come forward from you?
I said on the stage, listen, coming into these environments, talking to someone like you, just sort of floats me again. It just says to me, maybe it's time for the next one.
Yeah. So
the answer is yes.
Yes.
What I find is that writing a book like that takes up an 18 months, 2 years of my life. So that's a hell of a commitment. Yeah. I think I'm on the brink of being ready again for that sort of commitment.
Well, there's a whole host of Black Lions out there.
Absolutely.
To write about.
Definitely.
Really appreciate you coming and talking to us.
Your time as well.
Here at GKTV. I know you got to rush away.
No worries.
You know what I mean? Yeah, but hopefully you'll come back and speak to us
without
again.
question.
When you've penned the next one.
You guys keep up the good work. We need more black media as opposed to this.
Thank you very much. And thank you for, you talk about the back end. Thank you for setting the trail for us.